the senior editor from the intelligence unit of The Economist, as she presents ocean challenges and the path to ocean sustainability. A round of applause more than mine to her.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here at the TIP Summit this afternoon. I want to thank the UAE Department of Economic Development and the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi for such a great opportunity to talk to you about innovation for sustainability, focusing on the oceans. I work with the Economist group, and we've been leading conversations on ocean sustainability for many years now. And in fact, our flagship event, the World Ocean Summit, is something we've been hosting for many years. And in fact, last year, we held the 6th edition of the World Ocean Summit right here in Abu Dhabi, which was a really successful event. This year's World Ocean Summit will take place just a month away in Tokyo, in Japan, which we are really excited about. And I think the reason we're really excited is because this forum gives us the opportunity to bring to the fore challenges that are facing this really critical marine ecosystem. An ecosystem that is a source of our food, is a source of economic growth through key marine activities, and including facilitating very complex supply chains, and of course is a source for employment. So it is really important for us to understand these ocean challenges and the impact that it has on people and our life here on land. Now, many of the challenges that the ocean is facing these challenges are really well established, and people are familiar with those, but they tend to be more familiar with those that are most visible and are less familiar with the challenges that are taking place deep beneath the surface. Now, plastic pollution has really dominated the conversation, and I think a statistic that we're all really familiar with is that every year we dump 8 million tons of plastic into the ocean. And this not only tarnishes our beautiful beaches, but is now entering the food system as large pieces of plastic disintegrate and are consumed by marine life, in particular fish. Compounding this issue is the growing demand for seafood, and this is really driving unsustainable levels of fishing. At the moment, over half of our world's fisheries are are fully exploited, and so this creates quite a problem in terms of some of the ocean challenges that are occurring. More broadly, global warming is causing oceans to expand and are also accelerating the melting of glaciers at the poles, both of which are leading to rising sea levels. Global sea levels are expected to rise by almost 2/3 of a meter by the year 2100, and this particularly impacts coastal populations in low-lying regions. Now, challenges that people are less familiar with, but those that are changing the composition of the ocean, include ocean acidification, where increasing amounts of carbon dioxide are being absorbed by the oceans and thus making the oceans more acidic. In addition to this, runoff of effluent and other pollution, whether it's from agriculture, from factories, from desalination plants, these are leading to eutrophication, they're creating dead zones, and in some cases they're leading to rising salinity of water bodies as well. But combined, all of these have an adverse impact on marine life. And thus far, there's been mostly reactionary responses to this, whether it's in the form of beach cleanups or collecting plastic. But we need a more proactive approach to this, to really drive a rethink from the start. And this is possible only through innovation. Now, there's plenty of exciting innovation already taking place, whether it's to prevent some of these issues, whether it's to manage some of these issues, or even in terms of restoration of the marine environment. And I personally find a lot of this really exciting. The description's not there, so let me talk you through a couple of them. One company has developed a robo-fish that really mimics the movements of a fish and can be deployed into the ocean to collect data without disrupting marine life. Another is converting abandoned offshore oil rigs into artificial reefs. Now, this is definitely a very hotly debated solution and has really been criticized in the ocean community. But despite that, I think it's a strong example of innovative thinking that's required to really address some of these challenges. Other facilities are using seaweed to treat effluent from aquaculture to reduce the pollution that's leaking into the ocean. But I think importantly, innovation does not always have to be complex and does not have to adopt advanced technologies to be effective. It can be really simple and affordable. One company is enlisting tourist divers to help them restore coral reefs using a very simple and affordable method. Another, and this is one of my favorite stories, and it's a case study that we covered in a paper we published last year on ocean sustainability. It's a case in India where fishermen are collecting plastic waste from the ocean. It's being processed, and then it's being used to build roads in India. So very exciting and innovative solution right there. Another case study that we covered for this paper is an initiative in Indonesia that offers healthcare insurance in exchange for collecting garbage off the street. So especially in developing countries, there are some really simple and affordable solutions that can be applied. But innovation, I think especially at the speed at which we need it, does not happen in a vacuum. An environment needs to be created to foster this innovation. And what some governments and organizations are doing around the world is setting up blue clusters, and these are referred to as ocean or maritime clusters as well. And these bring together industry players, academia, technologists to understand ocean challenges, to foster creativity, to exchange best practice, and develop suitable solutions for the ocean. I think in addition to bringing together such strong minds to come up with creative solutions, clusters offer two key ingredients to foster and scale up innovation. And I think those are finance and legislation. In terms of finance, these clusters create a pipeline of investable projects that are ready to be scaled up, and that makes it very attractive for financial companies. In terms of legislation, research shows that especially in cases where governments are supporting blue clusters, there is a focus on long-term policy development to support innovation. So, and I want to delve into these two key ingredients in a little bit more detail. So first, if we look at sustainable ocean projects, I think the most exciting blue finance breakthrough, if I can call it that, was the Seychelles Blue Bond. Now, it successfully raised funds that would be dedicated to sustainable fisheries development and marine conservation. And while this blue bond was valued only at about $15 million, it's exciting because it provides a blueprint or a framework for more financial instruments like this one. And in fact, since then, we've been seeing an uptick in interest in similar financial instruments. And another example is the partnership between Credit Suisse and the World Bank to issue another blue bond valued this time around $30 million. So you're already seeing that increase in value. Now from the slide as well, you can see that there is a host of commitments from a range of organizations like the Asian Development Bank, like the European Investment Bank, the World Bank, among others, to finance a sustainable blue economy. But I think what's noteworthy is the limited involvement of mainstream finance or private sector finance. A recent survey by a responsible investor indicated that 9 out of the 10 investors surveyed did have an interest in financing the sustainable blue economy, but few have assessed their portfolios to understand the damaging impacts of their portfolios on ocean sustainability. And that really, I think, leads us to this question of what is holding them back. Research we conducted towards the end of last year reveals that improving accountability and transparency in sustainable ocean projects will accelerate participation from private sector finance. There are some key questions that need to be answered, points where there's still a great deal of ambiguity, and I've listed these on the slide. A lot of the financial companies that we spoke with were really concerned about questions like this. Are the funds raised actually being used for sustainable ocean activities? Who decides what is sustainable? And who is held accountable? How are these projects being monitored and evaluated? So some key questions that the industry and, well, all of us together really need to try to get answers for. And to address this, the UN Environment Finance Initiative is developing a new platform that brings together financial companies, scientists, and other stakeholders to really work through the mechanics of how these instruments would work. What we want to avoid is blue washing, and developing a blue taxonomy will be a critical component of this. This will be required to identify types of investment that are truly sustainable. Without such classification, there is a risk of blue washing, where companies make misleading claims over the environmental benefits of their ocean projects. A second ingredient is legislation, and that has a really important role to play in fostering innovation by setting sustainability standards for the solutions that are being developed. I'll give you a very specific example related to marine plastic litter. To guide innovations in making plastic bottles more sustainable, there is a European Union directive to ensure that caps are now attached to plastic bottles, and that plastic bottles are made of 25% of recycled plastic. So this offers guidance to those involved in developing these innovative and sustainable solutions. I think here regulators must strike a bit of a balance and be a bit cautious about not being too prescriptive, because otherwise you end up stifling innovation in the process. Now, all of this work cannot be done in isolation. While we have borders that mark countries, our air and our oceans abide by no such borders. These ocean challenges impact all of us, and the efforts of a handful of countries will not be enough. There are clear examples of collaboration that are already underway. At the COP25 last December, there were over 100 ocean-focused side events that took place. The G20 has an implementation framework on marine plastic litter. And so we're seeing some coordinated efforts around the world, which is really important. I think a final point that I want to make is that as countries do work together to address some of these global issues, these will only be effective and will meet the necessary pace of progress if countries set short to medium-term targets and if they establish standards for best practice. So I think if we can deliver on those 2 points, we will see coordinated efforts that are effective. It's been a pleasure sharing some of our research with you this afternoon. I'll be around and I'll be on a panel a little later on as well, so if you do have any questions, feel free to come up to me. I'm happy to answer your questions and even point you in the direction of some of our recent research. Thank you very much.